Good evening. I'd like to call the May 17th, 2017 Board meeting to order and remind everyone to please use your microphones when speaking and turn them off when you're finished. Thank you. Commissioners present are Richard Burke, Bernice Bagnall, Jim Duggan, Jim Doan, and myself, Dick Schmidt. Next, we will have the reports by the CEO and management staff.
So just a brief reminder, in addition to the reminder about the use of the microphones, remember that we are live this evening. We are, it's our first experiment in live streaming of the video of the TVWD board meeting, and so hopefully this works out well, and I look forward to getting your feedback on that. With that, we'll start with our usual safety minute, and Andrew Carlstrom, our customer service manager, is going to assume the duty this evening.
Great, thank you. Tonight's safety moment is pertinent to springtime, which is a time when a lot of us are getting outdoors and engaging in outdoor activities. It's the 10 essential systems. Wilderness survival can often depend on planning when you're hiking, backpacking, or mountaineering. Serious accidents and unpredictable events can occur, so be prepared with the 10 essential systems. These systems will allow you to respond positively to an accident or emergency and spend a night or more outside. They're important for simple day hikes to multi-day excursions. Longer trips obviously require more gear, and the following slides will give you examples of what equipment is in the 10 systems. So the first system is navigation, and this means items such as a map, compass, and GPS. Second system is communication. Bring your phone, preferably with a portable charger. Other items would be a whistle, a signal mirror, notepad, and pen. Third system is lighting, which would be a flashlight and/or headlamp, preferably with spare batteries. Fourth is extra clothing, preferably layered with a base layer, a middle layer, an outdoor layer, and definitely bring head covering and gloves. The fifth is a first aid kit, preferably with any medication you might need for longer periods of time, and sun, blister, and insect protection. Six is matches in a waterproof container in case you need fire. 7, tools such as a knife, pocket saw, and a toolkit. The 8 is water. Bring a very full water container, and if you're out for extended periods of time, water purification kit. The 9th is extra food, such as high-energy food items. And the last system is shelter, items such as a poncho, a tarp, sleeping bag, ground pad, and space blanket. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Andrew. Several announcements this evening, but first of all, I want to congratulate Commissioners Schmidt, Bagnall, and Duggan in their landslide mandate re-election victory that they received. We really do look forward to having all three of you as our commissioner for 4 more years, so congratulations. I would also extend congratulations to our attorney, Clark Balfour, who has been successfully reelected to the board of the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. So with that, a couple of notable items. Earlier this month, I approved a 5-year contract extension with Veolia and the city of Wilsonville for Veolia's continued operation of the Willamette River Water Treatment Plant in Wilsonville. Given that TVWD won't be taking any water from the treatment plant during the term of this 5-year extension, the district will not incur any direct operating costs under the agreement. Therefore, the contract falls within the approval authority that you've granted me as the CEO of the district. I bring the matter to your attention only because when this contract extension does conclude in 2022, we will need to conduct an evaluation of the district's requirements for operations and maintenance of the Willamette water system supply system that we will start using in 2026. So until then, there's really no need to modify the operational agreement that Wilsonville has with Veolia, and so from that standpoint, we approved moving forward with that. I want to bring to your attention a very unique opportunity. As you know, TVWD is a supporter of the Washington County Vision Action Network, or VAN. VAN engages in a wide variety of diverse stakeholders to address critical issues in Washington County, including housing, diversity, sustainability, and social justice. What's notable is that VAN is holding their annual celebration on Thursday, June 15th. The event's a great opportunity to express our support for Van and celebrate their successes over the past year. Typically, that event, their annual celebration, includes a wide collection of community leaders. I know last year Commissioner McWilliams attended on behalf of TVWD, and I realize that myself, as well as some of the commissioners, are scheduled to be out of town on June 15th, but I wanted to let you know about this opportunity. And those of you that are in town, if you're interested in attending, let me know, and we can make arrangements to have you attend. So it's a great organization. We're a proud supporter, and I want to make sure folks are aware that this is opportunities available. Switching over to Portland rates. Last week we learned that Portland has now published their final proposed budget and associated water rates for fiscal year 2017-18. That budget includes a proposed rate increase of about 4.3% in the wholesale rate that Portland charges TVWD for purchased water. Now, the good news is it's actually about 0.06%, 0.06% less than what Portland had told us it would be earlier this year. And so they were able, through their budget process, to achieve some savings, which resulted in a very small reduction in the wholesale rate that we'll be paying. Obviously, this is within our proposed budget, and so from that standpoint, we should be just fine. Additional topic, at the Pacific Northwest section of the American Water Works Association conference that was held in Kennewick, Washington 2 weeks ago, TVWD received an award for excellence in communications. Very cool award. We're very proud to make that available. The award was for our efforts in preparing the TVWD Kids Calendar for 2017. As you know, for the past 20 years, Frank Reed of our communications team has worked with local elementary schools to produce the water resource themed calendar each year. We often receive, as many of you know, bless you, several hundred drawings from local school-aged children to be considered for inclusion in the annual Kids Calendar, and I know many of you have served as judges over the years to help select that artwork. So just again, the award reflects not only the creativity on the part of the local school children, but I'm sure to you for your discriminating taste in fine art and the ability to select some really winning submissions. And so we look forward to continuing to move forward with this program in the future. In fact, Frank announced earlier today that he is continuing to accept submissions for the 2018 calendar, and I'm sure he will be in touch with you soon to schedule the next judging opportunity. So stay tuned. Lead results. So, boy, I need the clicker. That sucks. Would you mind grabbing that for me, please? Thank you very much. So if you'll recall, about a year ago, thank you. About a year ago, the TVWD board had instructed staff to begin the process of withdrawing from the regional lead and water joint monitoring program effective this spring. Today, we received the results from the first round of TVWD-only lead monitoring, as well as Portland's results for lead monitoring that don't include the TVWD results. So what you see on this graph that's in front of you is, first of all, the bright red line at 15 parts per billion is the existing action level. The yellow bars are Portland's joint monitoring plan results, which have been somewhere between 10 and 15 parts per billion over the last 17 years. We also looked at TVWD only within that joint monitoring program, and that was really the basis by which we said it makes sense for TVWD to separate from the joint monitoring program and go it alone, because we were pretty much consistently about half of the results of the joint monitoring program. The results that we received today on the far right for spring of 2017, Portland's results came in just under the action level. Portland result was 14.5 parts per billion, so again, Portland will be below the lead action level. And TVWD's results, drum roll please, 7.7 parts per billion for TVWD only monitoring results. So again, about half of the Portland result and about half of the action level. So I wanted to share that with you this evening. Again, this is hot off the press. And from that standpoint, also extend congratulations to the board for the bold decision that you made a year ago to essentially go it alone. And I think the results really speak to the fact that we now have the opportunity to sort of provide the transparency and accountability to our customers in terms of what TVWD's lead results actually are.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm really glad on these results that us dropping out didn't put Portland at a disadvantage for the reporting, exceeding the reporting limit by our samples being taken out.
Right.
But it looks proportional. It looks like the drop for both Portland and the overall, or the overall and TVWD looks like it's in line. And I'm glad that we made the decision, even though it could have put Portland in a very bad light if by us leaving, it put them over.
Right. Again, I know that Portland and the other wholesalers were very concerned about what that would mean for TVWD to drop out. And again, I would agree, this is very encouraging that basically the results are very similar to what they had been.
Thank you.
Just a reminder that the formal budget committee meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, May 31st, here at the TVWD offices, 6 p.m. Obviously, I'm counting on all of you being there because, again, this will be a formal budget committee meeting. We do need you to take action at that meeting, but also want to encourage members of the public, if they're interested, there's a great opportunity to get additional background in terms of the TVWD proposed budget at that time. We will be distributing copies of the budget to you, hand-delivered, on Friday of this week, and at the same time, it will be posted and made available to the public on the district's website. So all that information will be available in advance of the Budget Committee meeting. And finally, last but not least, in keeping with the district's mission to provide our community with quality water and customer service, Andrew Carlstrom and Jim Van Hook will be presenting the department report this evening.
Good evening, President Schmidt, Board of Commissioners. Tonight we're going to be giving you an update on the online bill payment project, also known in my previous reports as the Payment Provider Project. So tonight's update is going to be a little more interesting than previous updates. Number one, we have more information to report, and number two, we've got Jim Van Hook here, our project manager, to give you some information on the product itself. But I'm going to give you a little background first about the project, how we got here, some of the steps we've taken before passing it over to Jim. So you've seen this slide before, which gives you the various channels in which TVWD customers can pay their bills. I'm not going to go over every item on this list, but the important thing to note is that the top three are the items that we're focusing on for this project, and those are the electronic payments with credit and debit cards, EFT, electronic funds transfer, and also through the interactive voice recognition, or IVR. You're all familiar with the fact that in 2015, the district achieved payment card industry, or PCI, compliance by adhering to the digital security standards, and by doing so avoided paying fines for not being PCI compliant. That project was completed in 2015, and the major outputs were moving online payments to a third-party website, as well as phone payments from being handled by customer service reps to being handled by the IVR. As everyone in this room knows, the system has been very challenging, and customer usability feedback has been strongly negative. So for that reason, last year the district conducted an assessment of the system, and after that assessment, decided to initiate a project to replace the system. TVWD selected Paymentus after a vigorous selection process, and important for you to note, I've said this before, is that Paymentus received the highest scores in all of the written evaluation, customer usability tests, as well as the on-site vendor demos to district staff. I know I've said this before, but we did invite customers to participate in our evaluation process. And this was really a win for customers as well as the district. Customers were pleasantly surprised to receive the invitations, and they enjoyed the experience. I wanted to give you a quote from one of the customers on screen, and it was definitely a win for the district. We'll be doing more of this type of involvement in the future. We gained a lot of information from their feedback. A few highlights on our contract. As I reported in April, we completed the contracting phase with Paymentus. We took the time to invest in our due diligence on developing this contract. We did a detailed analysis of potential fee scenarios, and importantly, looking at the RAC recommendations, one of which was to go to monthly billing. We looked at how those scenarios would fit into eventual migration to monthly billing. We also looked at anticipating a second integration in the future with a future customer information system, or CIS. And we also had protections, miscellaneous protections in the contract for district customers and the district itself. So more on the contract. In terms of fees, Paymentus' initial proposal was a flat fee that included bank interchange fees. After doing our analysis, we determined that a different model would work for us, actually quite better, and that would be the interchange fees being passed through to the district, and then the only thing that we would pay directly to Paymentus would be fees for the credit and debit transactions, 75 cents, and then for e-checks or ACH, 60 cents. Importantly, we don't have any additional fees for the IVR, and that's important for you to know because IVR, as a percentage of our transactions, has continued to rise. Transaction fees will not be absorbed by customers. The district will be covering those fees directly. And in terms of the contract term, we wanted a contract term that would take us through the CIS implementation, which is why that's 5 years. If we want additional terms, additional extensions, that will need to be taken to the board for your approval. So at this point, we're in the implementation phase of the project. And I know everyone wants to know the answer to the question of when are we going to go live with the system. And I had hoped to have that date for you tonight, but something's happened along the way between the last time we met and tonight, in that the district now has an interim IT director, Tim Meyer, and we're going to be consulting with Tim on our integration planning before we determine that date and communicate that to you and customers. And it's important for you to know that Tim has a very deep bench, a lot of experience in large integrations and implementations, and we're really fortunate to have him on staff. In terms of communications to customers, we'll be focusing on communications to the impacted customers. In other words, only those that are direct velocity customers. That's a lesson learned from the first implementation with velocity. And more on the preparation. Customers that are velocity customers right now for credit card payments will be required to re-register. In other words, establish new login credentials. And I know that's been a question of the board. The reason why this is the case is twofold. Number one, technically, it's a challenge because of the difference between Paymentus and our existing system. And the other point is that the existing provider, we found today, will not be giving handing over that information to either the district or another provider. So although that's an inconvenience, it's also a protection of customer information. And at the same time, we'll be able to get updated information from customers, which is a side benefit. But customers that are currently on electronic funds transfer or EFT, we will be having a seamless transition for them. We have hard copy information of their banking information, and we'll be rekeying that into Paymentus, so they won't notice a difference when we cut over. In terms of configurations, we're going to bring customers back for looking at our configuration options before we go live, and on the customer service side, we'll be training and staffing accordingly for the go live and transition. So finally, before I pass it over to Jim, the purpose of this project, as a reminder, was improving our customer payment experience. We feel very good about the product that we selected. We've completed the assessment in 2016. We selected the product. We completed the contracting phase, and now we're in implementation. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Jim.
Could I ask a quick question
Yes.
before you do that? What percentage of payments are through the integrated voice recognition system? Interactive voice
Do you
recognition?
know that?
We have a interactive, about a third of those that are electronic are IVR. So a third of the web and the web and automatic payments. And, yeah. The rest of the payments still come in through checks and the usual suspects.
I have a question about the need to reestablish credentials. There's no way we can avoid that. I mean, it was a big deal 2 years ago, and now it's going to be a big deal again. Were the requirements
Right.
not written so that we couldn't just pick up the data and move it?
Part of it is a matter of whether the current provider will give up that information, and they have said that they will not. And the other piece of it is the password standards of the two systems are vastly different. We wish it were otherwise, but we are going to have to require re-registration with Paymentus. On the other hand, it's going to be a much more simple process than it was the first go-round. An intuitive system.
Okay, it
appreciate
never
the
occurred to
question.
me that we'd put people through this twice, but I guess I was just naive about the whole thing.
Well, we wish we could do it too. All right. So I just want to talk briefly about the stages we'll go through to get to the implementation. And this is a pretty standard way to lay out a project. We have an initiation phase, which we have already begun. The end result of that is that we'll have a merchant agreement in place, and that's to allow the bank of Paymentus to talk to our bank. And that actually takes a fair amount of time to take place. Doesn't take a lot of staff time, but it takes a long time for the banks to get all their ducks in a row. Additionally, we'll have a project charter that is from the viewpoint of Paymentus, so it will include all of their responsibilities and who will be responsible for implementing on their side, along with any of the tasks that we might have to perform in conjunction with them. So the merchant agreement process has already started. In addition, they have begun to implement a test website. We hope to have that operational next week so we can start to look at how our information will look on their website. And that's one of the tools that they use in order to go through this process and get it configured properly. Is you do the configuration, you take a look in the test site, and then you make any changes you need to make and go forward from there. So second stage, and it overlaps with the first stage. We've actually begun some amount of the planning. We've been discussing the standards that we have in terms of account numbers and the naming conventions and a few things like that. The end result of that phase will be detailed plans and all the details of the integration between our accounting system and their website will all be mapped out. Then we'll move into an execution phase, and during that time, we'll continue to use the Paymentus website, and the district personnel will be building the software that we need on our end to both send data to Paymentus and then to receive it back from them. That process will be somewhat similar to the current implementation, so we hope to take advantage of any of the pieces of software that we've already developed and shorten our time to go live. Last two stages are then, after we've built all that, is identified as implementation during this time, final testing of the system, and that will include customer testing to make sure how we've configured the system makes sense to customers. There'll be training of our internal personnel and communications to all the people that need communications. I didn't mention earlier that along the bottom there will be, it shows that we will be communicating to the customers. We actually already have done a few things on the website to let them know where we are in the process and then what their responsibilities or what their tasks will be. We hope that's going to be a positive set of communications so that even though someone has to re-register, they'll see the benefits of the new system, and that might overcome the momentary extra amount of work they have to do. The gap between the arrow on the left and the circle on the right is when we actually go live, and then subsequent to going live, we'll be monitoring our staffing levels in customer service to make sure we're adequately handling any phone calls that come in, any questions, any helps that we can provide to customers, even as we did in the first time, so customers can be invited in here if they're having any kind of problem getting connected up to the site. We'll be performing the migration of the electronic funds people, and we'll be a couple months after the implementation starts, we'll be doing a customer survey to see how people are responding to the site, and we'll keep close monitoring on the phone calls as they come in, and those will be coded as to the kind of communications we receive. So that's the plan. We wanted to take a moment just to show you a little bit of what the site is potentially going to look like. This is not our site, but it's the site we use to evaluate the vendors. Both our finalists provided one to us, and our customers use them. So it has our logo up there in the corner, but there will be decisions made as to what the actual presentation turns out to be. So the first thing to note is that when a customer goes to the website, they have two choices, and the one on the left is a new feature that we'll have, which allows a customer to say, I just want to pay my bill, I don't want to make a password, I don't want to register, just let me pay my bill with a credit card. So when they select that, they go to this second page, which allows them to choose whether they want to make a utility bill payment or a donation. Over on the right will be a picture of our statement and a nice circle highlighting where they can find their account number. So as they get to this page, they put their account number in. They get a little reminder down on the lower right-hand side of all the benefits of registering, and then they move from there, and they fill out this form with their payment information. So no login, no password, no registration. Let me just put in my name and address and pay by credit card or pay by e-check. In fact, that information at the top will generally be pre-filled because they put the account number in, so they don't even have to put anything in there if it's correct. So going back to the landing page then, we have the other side here, which is what a user would use once they have registered for the system. So they're going to put in their email address and password and log in. And this is what the site looks like for a registered user. So some of the important information here, or the features of the page as we looked at it, are that everything has nice pictures on it, a lot of white space, should make it both easy to see and to be able to know where they're going. Auto pay, setting up paperless billing is as simple as sliding the, does this have a little pointer on it? No, it's okay. On the left, right in the middle of the screen, you can see a little slider with a green says yes. You see that? Yeah, okay. So they slide that to the right and turn it on, and they're set for paperless billing. They can view the bill, they can pay the bill, they can set up auto pay. And then all the navigation on the left is available for other capabilities. So one of the things to point out is that you see bill history and payment history in the left side. That was information that a user had to go to our website in order to get and needed 2 logins. No more 2 logins. All this functionality will be on the Paymentus site and will retire that area of the TVWD website. That's a bonus for us as well. View the bill. They're going to be able to see an exact image of the printed bill. So that's also new. And 24 months of history in that. Hooray, hooray. Okay, so I've logged in. I decided I wanted to pay my bill. I clicked the Pay My Bill button. I come here. I see a summary of how much I owe. If I've already paid once before, I have a credit card on file. All I have to do is click a couple more times and I'm done paying my bill, unless I don't want to pay all of it, or if I want to add a new credit card or e-check banking account. So they come here, if everything's okay, they click continue again. They get to a final place where they can say, yeah, I want to pay it, or no, I don't. They say pay, and they're done. So really straightforward for the end users. Okay, another capability that was important to the team in selecting someone is that our customers could use a phone, a tablet, or a computer. And so this is someone else's information, obviously. But it shows you how Paymentus can take the big page from the laptop and narrow it down to either a tablet or a phone. Yeah. So as an experiment, I took my iPhone. I should have brought. I didn't bring it with me. It's a small iPhone. It's not one of the big new ones. A little dinky phone. And so this is what it looks like on the screen when you log into the site. There's my account number. There's an opportunity to look at the details of the account. There's the due date for the statement, the amount due, and a big blue button to pay my bill. There is more information that doesn't all fit on that screen. So if I slid my screen up, I could see that I still have the opportunity to set the paperless, view the bill, and set up auto pay. It's basically all the functionality that was in the big screen that we looked at earlier, but narrowed down to just this little tiny format. And it works on all the phones and all the tablets, because it uses something where the web browser actually makes the changes. That's it. Just in summary, we're getting an easy-to-use website. Quick payment option is one of those capabilities. The registration is so much simpler than the old system. The password reset, if someone needs to reset the password, is equally straightforward. The web pages don't have a lot of detail on them, so it's easy to pick the information out. It's mobile friendly, and even the IVR will require less key presses than our current system. One of the capabilities that's new is that the IVR system, a customer can actually save their payment information if they want to on the phone, and then just use that the next time, which is going to really speed things up, because entering those 16 digits of the bank card number and then the CVS number and all that takes a lot of key presses. Okay. We also are getting a more feature-rich service, including the ability to see the bill images for 24 months. multiple ways to pay, including some new ones such as pay by text. If someone signs up for that, they get a secure text message from the site when it's time to pay their bill. They see it on their phone, and then they just respond by saying, pay the bill, type in pay, and send the message back, and their bill's paid. And one of the important criteria was that there would be full support for donations. And finally, we talked about a little bit ago is the idea that single login, all the capabilities that are currently still on the Tualatin Valley website will be available up on the Paymentus website. Okay,
Well, thank
any
you.
questions?
That looks like it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions, that concludes the management staff report this evening.
Okay, the commissioners will now report on recent meetings attended. Commissioner Berg?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have 5 meetings to report. I attended and participated in a Budget Committee meeting on the 25th of April. There was an executive session that I participated in on May 2nd. I, as chair of the Willamette River Water Coalition, participated in that meeting representing TVWD on the 9th of May. I also participated on the 15th, a couple of days ago, in a branding session that was held over at the Springs, and then tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Bagnall?
On the 21st of April, I attended a branding core team individual interview to help advance that project. On the 25th, I also attended the Budget Committee work session, the workshop number 2. And on the 2nd of May, I attended an executive session by phone for district business. On the 15th, a brand strategy session for strategic planning. On the 17th, a core team review on the branding project. And also on the 17th, tonight's board meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Doan?
Yes, I have many of the same meetings and one that was even very special. Budget workshop on the 25th of April, the strategic work on the 25th of April, work session on May 2nd, the Pacific Northwest section of the American Water Works, May 3rd through 6th, and then on May 8th, the dedication of a new emergency pump station named Flo and Eddy, which will be used to, should something go wrong with the Portland system, to provide water from the main portion of TVWD to the city of Tualatin, or also to the Metzger portion of our district. And we will do that by building this pump station, which basically sits in the parking lot of the Raccoon Lodge on Beaverton Hillsdale Highway. And then the strategic session on May 15th, and then tonight's meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Duggan?
Many of the same meetings to report. On the 25th, I attended the workshop number 2 for our budget. On the 28th, I had a branding interview. On the 2nd of May, I attended our board work session. From the 3rd to the 6th, I attended the Pacific Northwest section of AWWA conference. On the 15th of May, I began the day with Mark and Dick to prepare for tonight's meeting, and ended the day with our branding session, and then tonight's meetings.
Yes, I also attended the budget meeting. On the 27th, I met with the rebranding consultant. And on the 2nd, the work session. The 12th, I met with a customer that was interested in how Tualatin Valley Water District works. On the 15th, met with Mark and Jim Duggan. And the 15th, the rebranding meeting, and the 17th, tonight's board meeting. Okay, public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Do we have a person who would like to comment? I see no sheets. So Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion. Okay, do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
I've just moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Business agenda. Item 2A, consider adopting resolution number 20-17, a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Hillsborough and Washington County for joint design of a roadway in the Willamette Water Supply System Waterline Project in Cornelius Pass Road near Tualatin Valley Highway.
So I'm beginning to feel like a broken record in terms of introducing these partnership agreements with Washington County and Hillsborough. Once again, another great opportunity to essentially minimize impacts to the community, limit our costs associated with this work, and from that standpoint, Dave Kraska, the Water Supply Program Director, will give the staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening, President Schmidt, Commissioners. Got two items for you tonight, and so the first one is resolution number 20-17, the Intergovernmental Agreement for Joint Design Phase Services for what we call our PLW 1.2. As Mark just mentioned, Washington County Land Use and Transportation Intergovernmental Agreements overview, we've had a number of these so far. We continue to find opportunities to work together in implementing our program. And we've already executed several IGAs with Washington County for similar projects, perhaps most notably the Southwest 124th Extension Project, where we're building our pipeline as part of that new road that's going in. Cost-sharing methodology for this project is similar to those in the past, and this IGA is just for design services. I'll be back in front of you some months from now with a similar IGA for construction phase services. Where this project is located, it's on Washington County's plans for expanding Cornelius Pass Road. And so this starts at its crossing at TV Highway and continues up north to Francis Street. And the good fortune has it that our pipeline is right along the same location. The cost split methodology for this, as I mentioned, it's similar to other past projects with them. It's intended to cover the design activities coordination. So basically, anything that we need to coordinate in order to get our plans implemented with theirs, this IGA covers those costs. Wherever either of us would have to pay for services in order to get the program done individually, say for survey services or for similar geotech services, we split those costs 50-50. And that's one of the good ways that we save money on these types of projects. Wherever we're adding cost to the project, say, for example, we might have to take deeper geotechnical drillings than the roadway would, then we would cover those costs. And in addition, we cover additional coordination costs for them, where they would have their design engineer on board designing their roadway, or we're having to have additional meetings to bring them in, we'll cover those costs. So some of the particulars about this project, our pipelines in this part of the Washington County is 48 inches in diameter. This particular project is 3,600 feet long in an open trench configuration, and we have about 200 linear feet of trenchless construction. A design cost is about $1.2 million. Our cost share in this IGA is about $120,000. Final design is complete in February of next year, and about that time is when I would be in front of you for an IGA for the construction phase services in March of 2018. We're planning to bid this project in around a year from now, around April of 2018. And with that, we're recommending this resolution number 20-17, and I'd be glad to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions, comments? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 20-17?
So moved.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Consider adopting Resolution Number 21-17, a resolution declaring public necessity to acquire real property for a water treatment plant site for the Willamette Water Supply System and superseding Resolution Number 11-17.
So a slightly more complicated property acquisition action that we would propose for your consideration at this time. And again, Dave will give the staff report.
Thank you, Mark. I won't repeat what you just said, President Schmidt. So this is about the water treatment plant acquisition, and it's a little bit of a repeat performance for the presentation I made back in March. Just to revisit how we got to where we are right now, the decision was made a while ago to consider moving the treatment plant from its originally planned location adjacent to the Willamette River to someplace away from there, largely to address seismic issues and some other land use issues. And so the program engaged its entire functional groups, real estate, permitting, engineering, geotech, risk, all of these elements to try to identify better sites for the treatment plant. Seismic resiliency was a key consideration. We wanted to build the plant on an area that was seismically resilient as opposed to areas that are adjacent to the Willamette. And we performed a detailed evaluation, including 14 categories, or 14 criteria in the following categories, to land on a preferred site that, again, I brought to you back in March. So part of this declaration of public necessity, it's the first step of our multi-step process for property acquisition in the program. It enables us to initiate the negotiations with the landowner that start with a notification to the property owner that the program is interested in the property. Then we conduct an appraisal, determine compensation, and then conduct those negotiations with the property owner. So back in March, I was in front of you requesting this declaration of need for the south 45 acres of this 95-acre parcel. So in working with Sherwood, this property is located adjacent to Sherwood, it's not yet annexed to it, is that we would be looking at the 45 acres to the south of the property because the city is interested in having commercial development to the north that fronts 12th and Sherwood Road. And that was the direction that we were proceeding. There was already a developer engaged on this overall property. So we were working through all these parties to acquire the south 45 acres. Now, since that time, we've been working on trying to move this forward. We've come across some complexities in order to move this forward. We've been working with the various jurisdictions, the resource agencies, and as I mentioned, the developer to try to figure out the particulars and how to move this forward. And we found that the partitioning for this site and land use are fairly complex. Though we are ready to move forward, we found that our schedule does not align with the developer for the property. And through those conversations, we found that that's inducing some schedule risk to the overall program. And in order to mitigate that risk, what would be prudent for us at this time and what we're recommending is to purchase the entire parcel, continue to develop and organize the site for partitioning with coordination with resource agencies and the local jurisdictions. And then once that northern parcel is properly defined, then sell it back to the developer and move forward as it currently is planned. But we've gained a lot more control over the schedule and over the development of the site. So with that, we're recommending this resolution number 21-17 that supersedes the resolution the board acted on back in March, and I'd be glad to take any questions you might have about this.
Thank you again.
Mr. Kraska, is this the property where we are, where we have a willing seller?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, very good.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 21-17?
So moved.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Consider approving a delay in executing the following agreements with the City of Wilsonville until the board is satisfied with the provisions of the Willamette Water Supply System Intake Facilities Intergovernmental Agreement. Ground lease, First Amendment to the agreement regarding water treatment plant design, construction, operated, and property ownership, and Willamette Water Supply Intake Facility Agreement.
So, as you know, we've continued the negotiation process with the city of Wilsonville as well as the other partners in the Willamette intake facilities, intergovernmental agreement. That work continues. You had previously approved a couple of these agreements, and our general counsel, Clark Balfour, is here to essentially present a proposal to make a minor modification in that process. Clark?
And you have my gratitude.
So as you heard. Oh, sorry. I have to tell you, I thought the light was on. It shows you that even with glasses, my vision is failing me, so I apologize. Okay. So as Mark said, we've had a lot of moving parts with this project, and including the things that Dave just talked about. We have a lot of agreements, a lot of pieces of this puzzle that need to fit into place. Back at the March meeting, we approved a series of agreements with Wilsonville that provide part of the puzzle. And importantly, it was the ground lease, the First Amendment, and the intake facility agreement. All those things are interrelated in terms of how we put our pipeline through Wilsonville, how we set up the intake agreement, and how we account for costing and management of the existing Willamette Water Treatment Plant site that we own a partial interest in down in Wilsonville. At the same time, we've been negotiating the larger water intake facility agreement with Wilsonville and with our other partners. Those agreements also have to interrelate very carefully with the 3 agreements that you already approved. We are very close on that agreement, and we are hopeful that we will have what we call the WIF agreement out for your review and consideration in the next month. But those provisions tie very closely into the 3 agreements that you just approved. And there are some outstanding issues that we still have to work through with the other parties. And we didn't think that it was prudent to go ahead and execute the agreements you approved back in March. And you directed the CEO to execute back then. So what we'd like you to do is 1, to apprise you of what the situation is. 2, ask for either consensus or a motion that would direct Mark to not sign the agreements until the other agreement is of sufficient finality that we know that everything is consistent. So with that, we'd ask for, however the board wants to do it, consensus motion to direct the CEO to hold off on signing the agreement so that he's not, not following the resolution that you passed back in March. Thank you.
Well, I have it, a motion and a second. Is that appropriate?
That would be great.
Okay. Thank you, Clark. Do I have a motion and a second to approve a delay in executing the listed agreements with the city of Wilsonville until the board is satisfied with the provisions in the Willamette Water Supply System Intake Facilities Intergovernmental Agreement?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Consider adopting resolution number 22-17, a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer to enter into an amendment of an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Hillsborough for the interim supply of water to the South Hillsborough area.
So you may recall back in 2012, you had authorized that we enter into an agreement with the city of Hillsborough that would basically provide a mechanism for TVWD to provide water to Hillsborough customers in the South Hillsborough area. Since that time, we've identified the need to make a few modifications to that original agreement, and so Paul Matthews is here this evening to provide the staff report presenting that proposed amendment to the agreement.
Good evening, President Schmidt, Commissioners. Just as Mark said, in 2012, the district did enter into an interim water supply agreement with the city of Hillsborough. That interim supply agreement is what we'd call a wheeling agreement, where TVWD would deliver Hillsborough's water to part of the Hillsborough service area on the west side of 209th. All that was possible because the district had entered into an urban service agreement with the city of Hillsborough back in 2002. So building on that cooperative agreement, we have then the interim agreement to provide that wheeling service to the South Hillsborough area. As the planning for the South Hillsborough has proceeded and as the assumptions have become more mature, Hillsborough asked that we reconsider part of the agreement to put a more robust pricing model in place that would take into account the pace of development within the South Hillsborough area. So we have done that. We've worked with the city staff and created what we would describe as more robust pricing model that will work for them as well as for us. Now, the monetary value of this agreement is actually quite small. It starts at about maybe $5,000 by 2018, and it might get as much as $55,000 by 2024. But the significance isn't that small when we take into account the importance of our urban service agreement with Hillsborough and working with them as a partner as we do on many other items. So with that, staff would recommend the board adopt resolution 2217 that authorizes the chief executive officer to enter into an amendment of the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Hillsborough for the interim supply of water to the South Hillsborough area. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Paul?
I would just like to express my appreciation for the good work done by staff and my appreciation to the city of Hillsborough, too, for entering into an urban services agreement and making this kind of thing orderly and sensible. That's what that intergovernmental agreement is supposed to do, and I'm happy to see it working.
Okay. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 22-17?
Mr. Chair, I so move that we approve resolution number 22-17 to authorize the executive officer to enter into an agreement with City of Hillsborough for the interim supply of water to South Hillsborough area.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Consider approving a chief executive officer authority to issue letters of support for continued federal funding of the Environmental Protection Agency WaterSense program, drafted by trade allies or promotional partners of the district and/or district staff.
So, as you may know, over the years, we've been supporters and frankly promoters of the EPA's WaterSense program. It really speaks to the sustainability efforts as well as conservation efforts of the district. You may also know that recently the Trump administration has proposed eliminating funding for EPA's WaterSense program. And so Andrew Carlstrom is here this evening to basically provide a proposal for your consideration in terms of how we express support for that program.
Great, thank you. As Mark said, the WaterSense program has been proposed for elimination in the administration's federal budget proposal. The purpose of this agenda item is to authorize the CEO authority to issue future letters for continued support of WaterSense, and support of the board to do so will help the district advocate as opportunities arise on behalf of WaterSense. Just to give you a very brief background on WaterSense, the EPA's WaterSense program is a product labeling program like the well-known Energy Star program. WaterSense labeled programs indicate to consumers that labeled models have demonstrated at least 20% savings or equal or better performance than standard fixtures. TVWD nets benefits as a promotional partner of WaterSense, and that one, we get a credible third-party brand that's easy to support and promote, and two, free high-quality messaging campaigns customizable to promotional partners like the district. District rebates for high-efficiency toilets and residential weather-based irrigation controllers rely on WaterSense labeling as a mandatory criteria for rebate approval. So elimination of this program would have a direct and negative impact to TVWD programs. And lastly, just wanted to note that WaterSense also supports economic development, and that WaterSense program drives innovation and market transformation in U.S. manufacturing. It's strongly supported by plumbing and irrigation industries. And finally, WaterSense performance standards and independent certifying process helps startups get to market more quickly and helps companies differentiate their products in the marketplace. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'll just make a comment. I'm in the process of installing a WaterSense irrigation controller for my 20-year-old control system for my sprinklers. And reading all the literature, I'm feeling comfortable to say that I'll no longer have to call Mark to tell them to increase the amount of water coming toward my house when we turn on the underground sprinklers.
Well, I just wanted to comment and thank staff for bringing this to our attention. I think it's a very beneficial program that's a win-win for everyone. Tuolumne Valley Water District has always been an early champion of conservation for a number of different reasons. This is one program that allows for it to be an incentive rather than a penalty or a carrot instead of a stick to help reduce water demand. And I think that this is a very good thing to do to hopefully preserve a very sensible program, no pun intended.
Any other comments? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to approve Chief Executive Officer authority to issue letters of support for continued federal funding of the Environmental Protection Agency WaterSense program, drafted by the trade allies or promotional partners of the district and/or district staff?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. There being no further business before the Board of Commissioners, this meeting is adjourned.